Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the interview and experience series. So we have Vikas with us, who is working as a developer in Myntra. And in a previous video, he shared his Paytm experience. And in this video, we'll be discussing about his experience at Myntra. You will find the link to the previous video somewhere on the top right corner. And as usual, you'll find the timestamps for each section in the video description below. So without any further ado, let's start with our discussion. So, Vikas, would you like to begin by sharing your experience as a full-time developer at Myntra?
Yeah, sure. So I joined Myntra in September 2020. So it's about 2021 actually. So it's almost about a year since I've been working at Myntra. So I work in the vertical called the supply chain management of Myntra, and over there also I'm part of the inbound section of the supply chain. So basically, my work usually involves around the fashion managers or the category managers, as we call them in Myntra. They placing orders to vendors and uh, vendors, and we creating a formal and a very legal entity called purchase order, so that the vendors and actually invert the goods into the Myntra warehouses. Over there, my the team that I work in is called PBS, Planning, Buying, and Selection. So yeah, what we have multiple projects, around 13 projects under our team, and there's a lots and lots of context that one has to know while working in this team. And yeah, so there's, like, as I mentioned, like, my work is for the importing of goods into the Myntra. Now, talking about few of the projects that I've worked on, there's one called Rudo. Rudo is basically regional utilization and demand optimization, which is used to uh, distribute the goods that the vendors are importing in an optimized manner across the different warehouses that we have across India, so that whenever an order is placed by the user, the delivery time can be minimized. The second project that I have worked on, it's called ARS, which is basically auto replenishment system, and it's whenever any inventory of a particular item is going out of stock. So even before the inventory is out of stock, we try to replenish it as soon as possible, so that user never gets to see that out of stock message on the web page, and has a very smooth and enriching shopping experience. Then yeah, these are the two major projects that I worked on over the past 1 year. And the ARS, as I mentioned, it's quite a complex project in itself. And recently we made one development on this where the requirements were quite complex, and it took us around 6 months to deliver it. So yeah, and apart from this ARS and Rudo, there are other projects called order end and purchase order is there, and like the multiple projects which have actually same impact as other projects. But I've not really deep dived into it, but I've worked on small chunks in each of those projects. So uh, yeah, and given that, like, my team handles lots, around 14 services, there's like each project has its own complexities, and whenever you're on call, you get to at least touch each one of them. So yeah, that has been my experience at Myntra. So as far as projects are concerned, and actually, while working at Myntra, it was my first time when I got to work in office. And as you've heard about Myntra, like, the work culture is pretty good. And when it comes to the office is actually really nice, and they've built a new office right now. And it's like just like anything, like, you'll get a really good experience. We've got like a whole room of arcade gamings and the sports and whatnot. Like, you'll really enjoy your time with Myntra if you are ever working over here. So yeah, that's my experience till now.
Great, Vikas. So, like you mentioned a lot of projects. So, what has been your role in these projects? Like, have you been working as a back-end developer or a front-end developer or a data engineer? So, if you could elaborate on that and what kind of tech stack have you used?
Okay, so yeah, as I mentioned, like I've been a backend developer since I started my career. So in almost all these projects, I have worked on backend,
Like,
purely on backend. And there were in this last project that I was working on called ARS. I got a very brief exposure to front end where since we were just two engineers working on this project, so there was small front end requirement where I got to touch the front end. But there's no constraint as such. If you're a backend, if you, for example, if you are just a backend developer, you will have to continue as a backend developer. You can always go and talk to your manager. He'll assign you with front end tasks. And in fact, one good thing about Myntra is if when you join as a fresher, this is what my manager told, that in every quarter they'll assign you alternating quarter they'll assign you one backend project, one front end project, so that by the end of 1 year or 2 year you are a full stack developer, so you have exposure of both the worlds. So that is one perk of joining Myntra. And as a fresher. So yeah, coming to the tech stack that I've worked on, again, the projects are on Spring and Spring Boot framework, and the choice of languages again Java in my team. Then coming to the databases we have a lot of relational data, so we are using MySQL, and you know now, yeah, again the caching mechanism is Redis. And yeah, this is majorly the backend tech stack that we have. And going to the front end tech stack, they use React, and we have certain in-house libraries which provide us with components and all. So yeah, those are the major chunks that are used in front end. So to throw the light on front end, I'm not the best person to talk about front end. And as far as backend is concerned, you can ask me any questions regarding that. So yeah, that's it. Like that's the standard tech stack that usually every company follows for backend development. Other teams, like if I talk about other teams, like different teams usually have different tech stack. If you go to another team, they must be using a NoSQL database because they are managing the whole catalog data that is across Myntra. And yeah, so and I've known different teams that actually use different coding languages such as uh, Kotlin. There are certain teams that are using Kotlin, there are certain teams that are using Go. And if you move towards the data platform team, they have like a huge completely different tech stack. They've been working on Spark, they've been working on Hadoop, and you know like anything like there's a diverse tech stack across Myntra, that I would say. So it really depends upon the team that you are going to join, what kind of tech stack you will get to work on.
okay, that's it. So, like as you mentioned, there's such a varied tech stack and the different operations which use different tech stacks, like different functionalities. So if a fresher is joining apart from the backend or front end role, are there any other roles they can aim for, like the data roles or maybe machine learning or anything? Maybe I don't think there would be any hardware roles in Myntra as such, but like maybe you can shed more light on what are the different roles available.
Yeah, sure. So we do have machine learning teams. They are called data science team, and as you mentioned, like data engineers are also there. But they have different roles, and each teams send out their own roles or hiring post on the website of the career website of the. So while applying, you are not actually applying as in general, in general, but you have to apply for a specific role. In case you want to be an ML engineer over here, you'll have to apply for a data science engineer role. And if you want to work as a front end developer or a back end developer, there are separate roles for these. So yeah, that's the thing. For data engineer also, there are separate roles.
Right. Got it. Got it. Makes sense. So moving on to the next point, like I know that Myntra has been there for a long time, but seems like to me from outside, it seems like they still have that startup mindset, startup culture. So, like, how according to you is the work-life balance or the work culture in Myntra, or is it like really fast-paced and steep learning curve like a startup, or it is more towards like the more relaxed big companies or the old big tech companies?
Mhm. So I think what I felt at Myntra is it's like a very good amalgamation of a startup culture and a very stable company. So there's a lot of structure when it comes to development and all. They follow the agile methodology, and whenever you are working on a task, uh, you first of all you'll have to perform make one LLD. So it is depicting how you'll tackle the problem, how you're going to solve the problem. You have to develop HLD and LLD stuff. Then you have to give your estimates, like how long it is going to take you, and like on various components how long you are going to spend and what development you are going to do. So that way, like, Myntra is quite sorted, at least in my team. That this is what I observe, it's very sorted. And then again, communication is the key. At the same time, you can coming this is very famous in startup culture, you get to experiment a lot. Over here, yes, you are free to experiment a lot, but keeping in mind the timelines that you're given. So again, communication is the key. If whatever you're trying to do, it's breaching the deadlines, make sure your manager is informed and stuff. So yeah, you get best of the both world at Mindra, if you personally ask me. And coming to your work life balance, so as I mentioned, you have to give estimates and all. So the thing is, it depends on you, if how good you are at managing the estimates, how good you are at managing the expectations of your manager. So make sure that the estimates that one give is proper, you add proper amount of buffer. And then yeah, so far, like, the work life balance has been fairly good enough for me, except for one or two instances where we had to push up because the requirements were quite critical. And the project that I was working on, it was being watched by very high level people, especially CTO CEOs. And so yeah, that was particular instance where we had to actually, for a week or two, we had to push the bar and work till late. So apart from that, the work life balance has been pretty chill, especially when you're in office. So it's quite chill.
So, as you mentioned, like in office, so is Myntra offering a choice like you can work remotely or you can come to office if you want, or is it that you have to come to office at least a limited amount, this number of minimum days, like a hybrid approach? So, what kind of approach is Myntra following?
So right now, Myntra is following a hybrid approach where the tech teams come on Mondays and Tuesdays, and for rest of the 3 days of the week, we are working from home. But you are free to come to office whenever you want. By whenever you want, I mean you can come on all 5 days, or you can work from home on rest of the 3 days. But those 2 days are quite compulsory to come, so that we move towards a full 5 day working period. And especially, obviously working from office is a completely different uh, experience, and you get to interact with your team, you are able to solve the problem more efficiently and stuff. So right now, yeah, we are following a hybrid model where you have to come to office 2 days, and for rest of the 3 days, either you can choose to work from office or you can choose to work from home.
So I think that's great. I think we have covered a lot about Myntra in this section, and we have pretty much discussed everything. Now I think we can move on to our next section. So first thing I would like to ask, like, how did you apply for the position? What procedure did you follow?
Okay. So while I was in this interviewing phase of like applying to various companies, applying to various product-based companies, what I kind of developed a framework. So what I used to do was I made one Excel where I used to, mention all the companies that I want to apply for, and then I used to go to LinkedIn, used to uh, message people of these companies directly that I'm interested in applying for this position. I have this much experience, and here's my resume. So uh, with the hope of getting a referral from them. So I use the same methodology for Myntra. I reached out to people of Myntra, and fortunately enough, I was able to get a referral, and Myntra was hiring at that time. So within a week or so, I got a call from Myntra, and yeah, we and their process is very was very fast. Actually, within 1 week of receiving the call from recruiter, the whole interview process was over, and yeah, within a week I had an offer from Myntra. So yeah, just and one more thing that I'd like to mention over here, while if you guys are looking out to apply for Myntra, don't just rely on the career website page of Myntra, because at times like that is not properly updated. So just reach out to the people working at Myntra. And in case there's one internal portal which is always updated, in case there's an opening, they'll surely refer you. They should refer you. And yeah, so that's the way to go about it. Just and not just about Myntra. Just don't rely on the career page of any of the any of the company. Go ahead and message people as much as you can, and yeah.
Got it. Sir, because that makes a lot of sense. And since someone is applying from us, so as you said, just don't reply on the portal, send your resume to people and ask them if there's an opening or a position. So when you're following this approach of reaching out to employers or recruiters, the resume needs to be really good. So are there any tips on how to prepare your resume?
Yeah, sure. So, from what I believe, Myntra does not hire freshers laterally. So, Myntra usually go to on campus and they'll hire freshers from there, or they convert interns into their full timers. So, what I know is like you can only apply for Myntra as an experienced person. So, you should at least have 1 year of experience. Now, while applying for Myntra, what I kept in mind was whatever projects that I did in my previous company, I made sure that those projects reflected the skills that I possessed. And in after every project, I used to mention the kind of tech stack that I worked on, and the skills and the learnings that I got from that particular project. So that was actually a plus point. And while I was asking for a referral, that that person was able to got they got to know very quickly that I'd be a right fit for their team, and they went ahead and referred me. So make sure that your projects are in line with the position you are applying for, and it's the yeah, and you possess the right skill set and the uh, skills for the particular role that you are applying for. Just go through the role that that you are looking forward to interview for. So that's the thing.
Got it. So I think to summarize, the project should be in sync with the job description and the requirements, and the project should actually reflect some kind of a skill or something that you learned, or something that will be really useful once when you join. So basically, it has to be in sync and relevant, as well as it needs to be something good that actually reflects your experience and learning.
Right, right. Because just giving a whole 100 or 200 word of description of the project isn't really good on resume, because no one has that much time to read each and every word on your resume. Just make it as keep the description as short as possible, so that it only reflects the thing that might catch the eye of the reviewer, or that you want to convey to the reviewer, that yeah, you are the right person who possess the right skills for the job.
Correct. That makes a lot of sense, okay. So, moving on to the next point I wanted to discuss was that what kind of preparation would you suggest for getting hired? So, once you have reached out to people, you've sent your resume, and you've gotten interview call or a online test mail. So, like before jumping onto that, what kind of preparation one should do, like in terms of the topics, the subjects, the difficulty level, and or what's the absolute bare minimum? Like without this preparation, it would not be a good idea to sit for the interviews.
Right. So I think when I received my call from the recruiter, what I post the salary discussions and all, my expectation discussion and all, I was interested in knowing the procedure for the interview. So she told me like, I'll have two DSA round, and post that I'll have one managerial round, and after that one HR round. So this is like the typical interview template that they have for a 1 year experienced person, or for someone who's experienced, who's applying for a software engineer role, basically an SDE1 role. So once I had this thing cleared, I focused more on practicing my DSAs, and apart from that, the standard stuff, the OOP and DBMS. But yeah, I'll share it in more detail what was asked in these rounds, the DSA round and the managerial round. But my preparation usually, it mostly involved brushing up my DSAs, then brushing up my projects, like what I did in my projects and why we did that, knowing them thoroughly, going through them thoroughly. So yeah, this was my basic preparation. And obviously, like whenever you are mentioning any tech stack in your project, you need to be aware of at least the basic stuff about that. For example, if you have mentioned Redis, or if you have mentioned Elasticsearch, or if you have mentioned MySQL, you got to know about things about those tech stack, or those technology, so that you are able to answer questions related to them in your interviews. So yeah, my preparation was just this for this, and I specifically asked the recruiter, will there be any LLD round for this, for during the interview? Because before this, whatever interviews I gave, they usually used to be an LLD round, which was being termed as managerial round. The interviewer wasn't clear about this. Sorry, the recruiter wasn't clear about this. So anyhow, I brushed up my LLD and stuff, because from my past interview experiences from different companies, I was being asked about this. So yeah, so DSA, some basic DBMS, OOP, and more knowledge about your tech stack being used in your projects. Then LLD. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, as you mentioned, we'll discuss the interview experience in detail in the next section. But just to get a summary here, were you actually asked any questions from your core CS subjects like OOPS or DBMS, and then as you mentioned LLD, or was it purely DSA?
In the first two DSA rounds, they were like, what do you say? There were questions, like there were questions. One was medium and one was hard. And after every question, there used to be a follow-up question based on that data structure. Like, how does this data structure performs? How will it perform in this case? Like, what is the time complexity and stuff? But coming to this DBMS and all, they didn't really ask me much questions specifically related to DBMS when it comes to SQL query or anything. They didn't ask me any such questions, and uh, but there were questions asked in managerial round that actually required you to have knowledge in these fields. So because this tech stack was being used in my previous company, so they used to ask me questions that required knowledge of these area to answer those questions. So having a good grip always helps you, because this is personally my interview experience, and it will be when you are interviewing for Myntra, it would be somewhat around this, but you never know what interview will ask you. So yeah, be prepared. That's my advice.
Okay, so if I get it correctly, it's like something which is good to have if you have time.
Right, right.
So
It's good to have.
got it. Got it. So I guess that pretty much summarizes this section as well, and we can move on to our last section. So as we discuss, because would you like to summarize your interview process?
So, yeah, coming to the interview process of Myntra, actually, I really liked it. It wasn't very exaggerated, like unlike other companies where they'll start asking you superficial stuff. They'll start making you design complex LLDs and HLDs, something that you'll never get to work on when you join the company. So, actually the yeah, that was the thing. And so when I started with my interview process with Myntra, I was told by recruiter that I'll have two DSA round, which were which happened on the same day. They were back to back DSA round. In those DSA round, each of the DSA round, one I was asked one medium question and one hard question. So regarding these round, I was able to solve the medium one in both of the medium question in both of the round. But when it came to the hard one, uh, what they were actually looking for was an approach. They were never looking for a code. So yeah, in both of the round, I was able to come up with the correct approach. And at the end of that approach, they wanted you to optimize it. So yeah, for the medium one, they wanted you to code it, and for the hard one, they wanted you to come up with an approach. And and along the way, they were helping you out. They were more focused on how you are able to tackle the question, and what different approaches you are coming up with. So one advice over here: just keep the interviewer engaged. Think out loud. Keep telling them what you're thinking, so that at least in case you are stuck, or in case you're missing out the whole point of the question, the interviewer is able to nudge you into the right direction. So yeah, the first two rounds were like this, and after every question there used to be a follow-up question regarding that particular database, like what would be the time complexity if this is the case, what how will this database perform, why this data structure will perform, why this particular data structure. And yeah, so the both of the DSA rounds were fun, but another good thing about Myntra is they won't purely judge you on your DSA performance. So each round is not an elimination round. If the interview process is there, the you are supposed to, if you are not completely messing up your DSA round, you are for sure going to get a managerial round. So coming now, yeah, coming to the managerial round. In the managerial round, I had a thorough discussion regarding my projects, what I did in my previous company, why I did that, why we used a particular tech stack, and they were like totally interested in my projects. They asked multiple questions regarding my projects. So after like half an hour or 45 minutes of discussion, post that they asked me like if I had any question regarding Myntra, or if I had uh, any reservations regarding Myntra. So over here, like I would advise everyone who's interviewing, not only for Myntra or for any company, just prepare a set of questions beforehand. That don't rely on your brain that you'll come up with some questions in middle of an interview, because at that time, like you are under so much pressure, and like yeah, after especially after this kind of thorough discussion, your brain is like, I'm not sure what kind of state your brain would be in if it'll be capable of coming up with good questions. So it's really they preparing questions beforehand really comes handy. So I had prepared around like 9 to 10, a set of 9 to 10 questions that and accordingly depending on my past 30 to 45 minutes of interview, I selected few of the questions from that particular set and asked them. So after this managerial round, I was like pretty confident that I've pretty much nailed the interview. And you know, after that, I was expecting an HR call. Then the very next day, I received a call from recruiter that saying that I'll be having my HR round. So yeah, then again, HR round, like standard questions: why Myntra, why do you want to, why are you leaving your current companies, what are your salary expectations and stuff, like. And yeah, this kind of the oh, same thing, the per standard HR stuff. So you don't really have to prepare anything for this, like just make sure you're honest, and don't yeah, make sure you're honest. And in case you still have certain reservation regarding the company, make sure you clear them out in this particular round. So these were the four rounds of interviews that actually happened with you. And then there's a fifth round of interview that is actually a debrief session. And like as I mentioned earlier, not every round in Myntra is an eliminating round. So in this debriefing round, the whole interview panel will come together and they'll weigh in their concerns and weigh in their reviews regarding you, and they'll come to a consensus whether to hire you or not. So yeah, once like they have the votes and they come to a final conclusion that they'll hire you or not, they'll convey the same message to the recruiter, and the recruiter will reach out to you. In case you're hired, the recruiter will have the final discussion regarding a salary compensation, and yeah, you and within 24 hours you should land up an offer letter from them. And actually, it's like one thing that I really liked about this interview process. It really went very quickly. Like uh, it was wrapped up within a week. I was done with my all the interviews round, and I got a confirmation from the recruiter that yeah, I've landed up the offer, and in the very next week, I had an offer letter in my hand.
You were speaking, one more thing I would like to highlight, which you mentioned, and I feel that's really, really important, and we miss it out, is that, as you said, prepare at least, think about some questions you would like to ask the interviewer towards the end, because saying that I have no question is a bit naive, because it's such a big company doing multiple things, and you haven't worked with the company, you know so less about the company, like how does it look from the back end, how is the company operating, and then having no curiosity or no questions about the functioning, it's a bit naive, because there's so many uncertainties, so much to ask. So when you ask few questions, it gives the interviewer an impression that you're also interested and you want to know about things, and you kind of can think about like what could be the interesting parts or the unknown. So I guess preparing questions beforehand, few questions, is really important.
Yeah, exactly. Like this shows like how serious you are about the whole interview process, and you're not just there for landing up another offer. So just perform some research about the company if you have time, or just prepare some general questions like what you can expect, what kind of tech stack you'll be working on, how's the work-life balance, uh, and yeah, just on yeah, questions like these really like these are very simple questions. Yeah, or maybe one of the hack that I've come up with is think of yourself as an interviewer, especially an HR interviewer. Just do the role reversal and start coming up with questions what you'd like to know about them, and think of the company as an interviewee. So yeah, this really helps you out.
Yep, I think that's a really great trick, because I mean, think about that, because in that it's actually a role reversal. You're trying to ask them, like, why should I join your company? What's interesting in your company? And so, yeah, that matters. Okay, I guess we've covered your interview experience as well in pretty much everything here. Uh, and that's all the questions I had from my side. In case I missed out on anything, like, because would you like to add anything from your side?
Um, No, actually, I don't have anything. This was my experience at Myntra. So I think if you guys are planning to join Myntra, you'd really love working over here. So yeah, go ahead, apply, and all the best.
Right, and go ahead, ping Vikas for referrals.
Yeah,
So,
definitely, always open for referrals.
good. So I think we can end this video here. Just in case anyone still has any doubts, feel free to mention in the comment section, and I'll ask Vikas to answer those questions in the comment section, or I'll try to answer them myself. And thanks for watching, everyone. Stay safe and keep learning. Bye.
Bye bye.